Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Storyteller Album Designer 60 Minutes. Hi, Rob. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, just checking. Rob, you can hear me loud and clear, mate? Yeah?
Yeah, perfect. You're all in the green on my side, so yeah, all good.
Excellent. So, Rob, obviously, we're not strangers to these webinars, but there might be a few new people online with us today. So, I touched on the fact that you're going to be leading up our Xperience wedding program, but obviously a respected and obviously an ambassador for many across the UK. So, before we get into really what we're going to do tonight, Rob, just a little bit about you, mate, just to remind people of where you came from, how you got to where you are.
Yeah, and no problem. So, as you know, I'm an ambassador for a couple of brands now, and I've been doing wedding photography for well over 10 years. I think I've got under my belt now around about 400. The last count is around about 487 weddings that I've covered from the very beginning. So, quite a lot of weddings. As a sort of a norm, I cover 38 weddings a year, and I cap it at that. And I tend to call myself an international wedding photographer. The international just being that I do weddings in other countries. So the Caribbean is kind of one of my favorite landing places. France, Spain, and Hong Kong. So that's kind of where I go. Obviously, the UK as well. Um, why wedding photography? Well, do you know what? It's the only place that you can really be yourself. So many people are happy and bouncing around, and I think it suits my personality more than anything. So that's why I decided to follow the path as a wedding photographer. And also to teach people as well. I think in this age where what we're living in, it's really important to be very open and pass everything on to others so we can keep this this business of wedding photographers alive. Um,
Brilliant, mate. Okay, so just well before we get going, just to clarify, obviously we've shown how fast Fundy Album Designer is in the past, by clicking the auto design and uploading the images. Tonight is very much about getting prepped, isn't it? It's about the workflow. It's about how to look at everything in that. We realised when chatting in chatting through preparation for this webinar, where we've featured, the speed and the beauty of Fundy in the past, but there's also the importance, and sometimes not because we don't have time, but the importance of getting prepared and being ready for that auto design button, isn't it? That's key, isn't it?
that's right, and this is what I was saying to you before, Jay. It's so many people have seen how an album's designed and the process and how simple it is, but I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a different twist on it, where we'll show you the finished designed album, and then we'll go over what to do to get that finished design. So it's very easy to press the auto design, and yes, by the time you've gone and done yourself a cuppa and you come back, the album's done and dusted. But there is a process to it. Myself, I only use the auto design, but I spend a lot of time on setting things up as well. So I want to go over the setting things up, and once it's done, how you get it out, how you proof it to your customers, and also your album actually starts when you're at the wedding, so you need to think about that. So this is what we're going to go over today.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to give you the screen any second now, Rob, so we can get into that bit. But just to remind you all, please, any questions on what Rob's doing or the process, please pop them through the question panel. It's very much designed to be interactive for you guys tonight. Any questions you have about Fundy, we do have Kirsten online with us. Kirsten, I've made you an organizer, so you should be able to see the chat panel and be able to answer the questions directly if you want to, or interact with me on that. So obviously we've got you muted because it's just me and Rob that they can hear, but you are there if you do want to interact with us. So Rob, I'm going to give you the screen. So
go for it.
Be telling you to swap screens now.
Share my screen. Okay, so we're all good there. Right, so everyone should see my screen, hopefully. If there is any problems, then please do give us a shout, and then we can sort that out. So I'm just going to recap on a bit about myself first, and then we'll jump straight into the Fundy. Again, if you want to go to my website, it's RP Photography by Design. You can have a look all about me. Everyone likes to see what's in my camera bag. Just go to the info. And then before we get going, obviously Fundy and the Photography Academy are also a sponsor of our up and coming workshop. And if you do want to have a really good hands-on on the album design sort of face-to-face, then just go and have a look at our 3-day photography bonanza, because we're also going to cover on one of the days is all about album design and how to do it, and we basically do it all together. So that's enough of that. I'm just going to load the proofing one up. I'm going to hide that, and we're going to go over to this one. And let me just hide this chat box away so I can see everything. Now, it's really important as I go along. I really want you to be asking the questions. Obviously, we'll do question and answers at the end. But if I'm doing something and you want to know how it's done, or if you've done something and had any problems, then throw the questions in and we can go from there. So when you open up Fundy Designer, this is kind of what you're going to see. Well, you're not going to see this design, it'll be blank, but this is a finished album that I've designed and done all by Auto Design. And like I say, it was done as fast as it was for me to make a cup of coffee. But I want to talk about a little things that you need to do to get to this finished design. So the first couple of tips that I'm going to give to you, obviously, this is the name of the album that you're working on, and this is the size of it. You can change this at any time. What I would always recommend, if you're going to if you've proofed an album to a customer and you're going to change it, so you would always duplicate it and work on a new copy. To duplicate an album, so you can see here that I've actually duplicated this twice. So this was my first proof out to the client. Once they'd approved some changes, then I would duplicate it. You just simply press this, and then it's going to ask me if I want to duplicate this sample album. I would then press OK, and now we've got a duplicated version of it, so I can actually go to that, and now I'm on, you can see there it says copy, so now I'm working on a different copy of the original design that I did. So we can change things from this, and then we can go back and have a look at what we've changed before. So again, maybe the clients asked us to go for a different size. So when it first opens up, you're going to be prompted with picking the option of your suppliers. So let's just say on this scenario, I'm picking a different supplier because I'm ordering a different album. So bride and groom are having one album that I've just designed, and that's coming from one supplier, but maybe they've picked a different one for mum and dad, and that comes from a different supplier. So it's not uncommon for us to use two different suppliers. So I'm going to just go over this first section here, and then I'm going to talk to you about my approach on how I get to bringing the images and how I shoot. So we'll just cover this first. So again, you can favorite all your album suppliers. So obviously Loxley is here in the UK. We can filter with the ones that we actually use when we press the top. Fineo is one that I use. Loxley is one that I use. So let's say you wanted the Loxley, you would select the Loxley one. I'm going to leave it on the one that we've actually got this set up as. So the books, when you've selected the supplier, it will then come down with the books that you can have from that supplier online. Now, not all albums are listed. So for, if I go back to this one, so say for Loxley, All their albums are in there, but I believe their new one, their Adore album, isn't listed in there. Now that's not a problem, because that you can just select any album, but that's the same size as, say, their Adore book. It doesn't actually need to be named that album. So quite often I will just export it all out to the end, but I'll show you how that's done. So fine art book, that's what I've picked. This one was with folio albums. And then 10 by 10. So this is the size that I'm going to be working on. So I've just selected a 10 by 10. I'm just going to see why that keeps popping up. Okay. And then cover. If you're going to have an image on the cover, then you can change this to a cover template. I don't have any covers, sort of images on the front of my cover, so I was just putting no cover, and then you go next. This will give you the overview of now your album that you're going to design. So here it's a basic album, and you see there the album supplier is Folio Albums from this one. It's a fine art book, and it's a 10 by 10 fine art book. And then it gives you the spreads as well. You don't really need to concentrate on this, because Fundy actually knows the bleed marks and everything for that manufacturer, and it automatically adds them in. So then when it comes down to album name, you can actually rename this. So a lot of the times, say they've had a proof 1, I will just go proof 2. And then I know that this is the second proof, and then you'll just save the changes. And now you can see up here, instead of copy, it says proof 2. So if I was to drop this down, then we know we've got the different proofs as well. So then you'll be set up. Normally when you would come in, you would just have one blank spread, and then you import your images in. Now, before I talk about images, I just want to talk about my approach to a wedding and how I do it. So I'm a reportage wedding photographer, and that it means that I tell a story on the day. So my approach is very much, it's in the background. I'm not being intrusive. I want to capture all the moments as they happen, and I want to tell a story. So I don't take multiple images of sort of one scenario. A lot of people are very heavily on the shutter button, firing away. My approach is a wedding, I will come away with round about 450 images. From that, I will probably end up with around about 60 images in an album. So you can see here, it says showing 41 images. So this album ended up with 41 images. You should be able to tell the story of the day of the wedding with no more than 60 images. And with that in mind, that is how I shoot on the day. So when I'm doing the bride preps, I automatically think, what do I want in the album? You know, what's gonna be in there? Well, the important things are obviously the little details. So the bouquet. So I'll think of the bouquet, I'll do a close-up shot, and then I'll do a shot of the actual bouquet. I'll take a picture of the shoes and the perfume, and then the dress. Even though I take a picture of the dress, I stand back and it's hanging up, I know that probably won't make it to the album. So I prefer to show the dress actually on the bride herself, instead of just an image of it hanging up. A lot of people are different, but that's just my approach. So I naturally think of one spread is going to be the detail shots. And we are in this to make money. So when they buy an album of me, I include 30 pages. But when I design an album, I always design 36 pages. So you can see at the top right-hand side here, it says total images 36, and it says total pages 32. So this couple, they got 30 pages within their package, but they actually ended up buying an extra spread. So you can see there, because it says 32, So 2 pages is 1 spread. I charge extra for the spreads, so that meant after the wedding it was an upsell, and I got some extra money. So think of every single spread. I'm going to just talk hypothetical now. Just say you sell each extra spread for £25 per spread, including the images that are on there. So if you design an extra 6 spreads, that's a nice little bit of extra money. So even though you've been paid for your album previously when they've booked you and booked the package, how I see it is I want to try and sell enough extra spreads after the wedding that's going to actually pay for the album. So it's kind of a win scenario, because it just means that you're not having to lay out some extra money to purchase the album, because if they have all 6 spreads, then that's going to actually pay for the album. So you're not splitting your money off, because with wedding photography, you normally book 12 months in advance, and you have to kind of split that. So 50% of it will be this year's wage, and then the other 50% will be next year's wage. That's how you have to kind of work. So always design an extra 6 spreads, and that should cover the cost of an album, because we do make quite a lot of money on our upsells of album. So this is, I'm going to show you 2 designs, and then we'll talk about how the images come into it. So this is a typical design. I have a sheet, and I write on the sheet what each page I want from each wedding. So I have a standard set of 30 pages, and say the first page will always be the bridesmaids, and then it'll be bride shots, and then the ceremony. So that's if I didn't cover the bride getting ready shots. So again, I charge an hourly rate, so it's quite often that I may just start at the church, the ceremony, or I may be there all day. So for this one, we can see here, first shot of the day is going to tell a story. The bridesmaids walking down, then the bride's being walked down with the father, and then we'll see the hands hold, the ceremony, the vows being mentioned, the kiss, the registry, and then a really sort of open engagement shot with all the confetti. And then we come down to the group shots. So with the group shots, I don't pile all the group shots in there. And again, this is very much down to the couple, because you're going to do the initial design. This is, again, how I work. A lot of people will ask the couple for 60 images and then start the design off that. I tend to pick 60 images myself that I think will tell the best story, and I design the album off that. I would probably say 8 times out of 10, there's no changes, and they love the album and they just order it. So there's a very small percentage that they'll start diving in, and we do sort of 2 or 3 proofs backwards and forwards. So again, with this really big wedding, so we split the group shots off to cover 2 nice spreads. And again, if you do sort of a panoramic shot, you've got to think on the day that you're actually going to make more money out of the album. So a big panorama shot like this, well, it's a full spread, so that's equal to like £25. That's how I kind of think of the day. Again, this shot, I thought it would work straight away with the bride and then the bridesmaids with all their funky little shoot that they wanted. And then moving down, always throw quite a few portrait shots in as well. So we can see here, we've got 1 shot of a side and then 1 on our own, and you'll see here again, even though they're very similar, they're different shots. So I always kind of split them into 2, and you can tell that from here. This is my bouquet shot, because we didn't have a getting ready, a bride preps. So instead, there's a walking away, and then I kind of threw the bouquet into the shot on the corner. To tell the story as it's going along, I always include the guests having fun, interacting, and then the speeches, amazing cake, and nowadays we're getting really popular with the cheesecakes as well. And then I always like to end the album on a really nice sort of dancing shot with the bride and groom, and then if there's a dance as well, I always stick one of those in. So it sort of ends up where when you send them the proof, they should struggle to remove any pages. So if I've designed 36 pages, those 36 pages really do tell the story of the day, and they really struggle to remove any of those pages from the actual album. That's the only way that you're going to do upsells. And I know it's hard to think of it like that, but you must understand that we are a business. As much as we love these couples and we want to give them the best for their money, we are a business and we are out to make as much money as we can. So that's how I do it with the albums as well. When it comes down to the layout of Fundy and what's going on, so down the bottom here, this is kind of where you're going to drag all your images in. Now, once you've exported them out of Lightroom, you can go to your folder, you can just get them and you can drag them over into this part, and then they'll all populate and pull them in. As long as you don't move them from that other folder, it'll always know where they are. So with me here, we've got this little sync button. You'll see here, on the right hand side of this image, you see a little swirl. That's because I haven't actually got the external hard drive that's plugged, that all these images live on, isn't plugged in at the moment. So how Fundy works, it'll bring in previews, and think of them as like Lightroom with their smart previews, where if you build smart previews, you can actually work on those images anywhere without the hard drive being attached. And Fundy works in the exact same way, where once all your images have been dragged in and they're populated here, you can unplug the hard drive and you can actually work on the album design, and it will use these smart previews to actually build the album. So all of these are all built with smart previews. And the only time you would then have to connect the hard drive back up is when you're actually exporting this this out for proofer, or if you're exporting it out for print, because when you're exporting it out, then Fundy will actually look at the path where these images are, and then it will use the full high resolution images to build those pages up. But until you're at that stage, it's brilliant because you can take your laptop anywhere, whether you're on a plane or whether you're abroad on holiday on the beach. Not that you'll want to be sitting there designing an album on the beach, but if that's what you like, then you can. You can design multiple albums without even having the originals attached. So that's what this little swirl is here. Then we've got our star ratings, we've got our love heart, and then we've got, see in the left-hand corner, there's a number 1 there. Well, that number 1 says it's been used once. So it's been dragged over here and it's been used once. There's times where you will literally use the same image twice. I do on some albums. I'm just seeing if we've got any on this one. I don't think we have. Now, just moving along to here, if an image hasn't been used, then obviously these two haven't been used, so it's blank. I preferred the colour ones when I designed it, but then the bride actually wanted black and white ones, so we turned them black and white and we replaced the speeches with black and white shots. I'm going to go through what these little links mean in a minute, because we're going to go to a new window. Yeah. So moving back to the beginning. So this is your film strip. Again, all your images live here and you can just drag them across. If I was to, say, have this window here and I wanted to add an image into this, I could literally just drag it, put it there, drop it, and it's just populated straight into there. Job done. And now, it actually says that I've used that image twice as well. So we can open that image up. I can remove it just by highlighting it and tapping delete, and then it's just removed it from that spread. So I'll go back to view. So you can see once the auto design's done, you can actually go over the designs and you can add to the pages any amount of images that you want. So let's have a look at how you set up the images before you press auto design and what's important. So ignore all these pages for the time being. Let's just say I've dragged all the images into the film strip along the bottom. Then the first thing I'm going to do is, you see this little double box here over on the right hand side with the little arrow. I press that and I open up the window like this. So now I've got thumbnails of all the images that I've dragged in. If you don't see this, if you're sort of seeing maybe the film strip along the bottom and just one image, you need to come up to the right hand side just up here, and this is like a side-by-side view, a full view. I like the thumbnail view, and it's important for how we're going to set things up. So before you start, I come down to this part here on the right hand side. Location, details, bride getting ready, groom getting ready, first look, ceremony, formals, portraits, reception, and exit. For auto design to work its absolute best, we need to tell it what images we want with each other and what images are from each other. So if say I tapped on, let's go for formals. So if I was to tap, say these, I highlight all the formals, and then I would come and press formals. So you see how formals down here is highlighted. So let's just go to this one. See how this one's highlighted formals? That I'm going to tell you about this in a minute. So before I even start with any selections, I separate everything out into what it should be. Like this one here is a portrait. So all I would do is press on, say, the first one here. I'd go to the last one. So I hold Command and Shift to highlight them all. And once they've highlighted all of these, then I would just come to portraits, and then I would press portraits, and that's it. Once I've done that, all of these images here have been tagged that they're portraits. So you see I tap on that one, it says it's a portrait. Now, say you come to the reception. So we will go from, say, there all the way down to this one, and we can then go, these are all the reception. So now the auto design knows that these are all the reception. You've separated them all out. If you've got an image that you think that is the exit image, so see these two, if I select these two and I think, you know what, I want them as the exit image, then I can press that as well. So you can have the multiple selected. So even though these are reception, because we can see there the reception, I want to use these as though the exit image, so the last image on the page. So down here, I've pressed exit as well. And if you was doing bride and groom getting ready, obviously not in this shot because there's none in here. So I would literally select all the bride and groom preps, and then I would select that. Detail shots, well, a cake's a detail, so I could literally press the cake, and I could go, well, do you know what, that's details, so I'll add that into details as well. And if you've got an exterior shot of maybe the venue when you've arrived, then you can add that as a location. The more you can tag, the better it's going to be. But this is very much just the beginning stages of it. Okay, this is all going to work in your favor, selecting all these. So then once that's done, once you've been through and you've separated all out where it needs to be, then I'm going to look for images I want to link together. Images that, say on a spread, I know that I want those on one spread together. So what you do is say like this one where they're kissing, and then this one where they're signing the register. So you just select both of them. Here it'll say ungroup, but basically I'll just ungroup them. So you see the little chain's gone. So these two images, I want to group them together. So I press group, and we've got a little chain there that's tied them together. So when you press auto design knows that you want these two images together. But we can go one step further than that. So on this one, maybe I want this one on the left hand side. Maybe I want this one as the main image. So then go up to, while this is selected, go up and then press main image. So you see the little opening book there. Now it's got a highlight on the left hand side. So auto design actually knows that you want this as the main image. Then you can go to, say, like, let's pick where the panoramic, so one of these. So for this shot, it's very much a panorama, you know, stretching across the full page. So if I highlight that and then press panorama, you can see now that the actual page, the black goes across two pages. So auto design knows that you want this to cover a whole spread all the way across. And again, I can do the same to this one, and I can go, you know what, this is a panorama as well. And then say this and this one, we want to group those together. So you can very much manipulate what you want out of auto design. And a cover, so the cover photo, maybe you want an opening shot of just the couple on their own as a cover photo. So you go through and say, this one here, this is my cover photo. That's what I want, the cover photo. So that's the little selection done here, but it doesn't stop there. I mean, for me, the more input I can put into this section, the better auto design will be. So after I've done the selection of tagging here, I'm going to tell it what are my favorite images. So I will look and I will go through and go, do you know what? I love that. And let's see the little love heart has gone red there. So it knows I love that. I'm going to say, I also love that. And then I will go, do you know what? I love that. Once I've done the love heart selection, I'm also going to do my star selection. Now, if you're very big on the star rating in Lightroom, it will carry across, okay? But be warned about that on how you use star rating in Lightroom. So I'm going to show you how I rate stuff in a minute in Lightroom. So just be careful, because we all use a star rating in a different way. So here, if I was to say, when I'm star rating, these, I'm going to say, do you know what, I like these, so I'm going to just do those, because I think they'll probably work well together. One of my favorite shots is this, so I am actually going to go, you know, love that shot. This is a really nice shot, I love that. I'm going to say that's a 3 out of, say, the 2 here, because even though you've got all these pictures here, auto design won't necessarily use all of them. I mean, you can change how many it uses and how many pages it creates. So I'm just going to go, I prefer that over this. This one, even though it's got a heart there, I'm still going to go, I prefer that one. I love that with the hands up, so I'm going to give that a 2 as well. And then I'm going to say that I prefer this over the black and white, so I'm going to give that a 1 star, because we've got a very similar one you see there. One's in black and white and one's in colour. And this one I will just give 2-star, and then the girls at the end I'm going to give that 1-star as well. So that's how I prep my my auto design. So you can see here it says the total amount of pages that's going to do down there. So once all this is done, we can close out of that, and then if we look at our film strip here, we can actually see that everything has all come across all the way down. Now with auto design, now in here we've got 41 images, so we can see before I actually press it, don't think when you press this auto design it's going to start straight away. So don't be worried, you can just press auto design, and then this basically tells you how the album's set up. So pages to design is 36. Remember that here there's only 32. That's because this one, this album here, is actually a copy of what I originally proofed. I originally proofed 36 pages, but the couple actually removed some pages, so that's why this this album is showing 32 pages, but my original design was 36. I always design 36, but I only include 30 pages in an album package. Total number of images that you want it to use. So again, you can change this. So it's showing 41. Now, again, in the original design, I had 60 images, but it gives you a total here of, say, images that'll be per spread. So I'd just say you change that to 30. And you see now it's saying that there's basically 1.5 images per spread. If I change it to 21, then you'll see there. And if I just do it to the 41, so it's a guide. It's saying that 41 images, you're going to get sort of the 2.5 images on average per spread. Main image tagged and panorama tagged. So it tells you those. The reason it says the main images, how many is it tagged, and the panoramas, how many is tagged, because they're going to take up a full page. So it's good to know that. Then you can actually do a minimum per spread is 1, and you can do a maximum per spread is 6. These are the images that appear on there. Don't think that every page it's going to put 6 images in. It doesn't work like that. It's just a guideline for it. It's just saying that you want a maximum of 6 images and a minimum of 1 image. And between the 41 images that you're allocating to this, it will know how many per spread it can allocate out. So maybe that you only want a maximum of 3 images per spread, then just change this to 3, and it will work it all out and tell you here. You don't need to change anything here because this will be all linked to the album itself. So the album, the aspect ratio, and then the entire collection, available images, entire collection. So leave all that as it is, and then you can just hit design and it will go from there. Also, once it's designed the album, this is what you'll end up with. It'll run its due course and it'll end up like this. And this is when you can then just have your little bit of a play and move things around. So, you know, you could go into this spread. So this is how a spread looks. And maybe you think, do you know what? Or instead of start dragging things out and moving things around, just go to layouts and it will give you a selection of those 2 images and exactly how different images can look, and you can just press next and go, and it'll change and show some more options. So maybe you instead of having the white strips along the top, we'll just go back. So here we've got, see the white strips along the top. Now you could tap onto them and you see you've got the drop zones where you could drag them out and fill it, but there's really no need to. If we just go to there, I could, you know what, select that, it's done. It's as easy as that. If you change your mind later on, then you can easily select that and go, well, do you know what, this is the one we had before, let's just go back to that. Or maybe you just want, say, this one doing on this page and not on this, well, then you can just get the image and you can just move the drop zones out and you can resize it as well. So you can never destroy an album. Once it's designed, you can always, if you make a mistake, you can always go back. So that's the brilliant thing about it. And that's one of the most important, I'm just going to go back to this. That's one of the most important about doing your duplicates. Never ever work on the album you've actually proofed to your clients. When they proof it back to you, don't start making changes on this. Always do a duplicate and work on a duplicate. The reason I say that is because that there is that 1% of your clients, when you proof this second one out, they'll turn around and go, actually, we preferred how it was before. Can we just have the album as it was before? And if you've worked on this original album, then you're lost. You have to then go into Proofer. You've got to look how it was designed before, and then you've got to start trying to change things out. If you do it like this, you can go, no problem at all. You just go back to this, and you can just carry on working on this. If you make an absolute mistake and you change loads of things, and even you get lost and you think, you know what, I've made a mess of this album, it isn't a problem. You can just simply delete this spread, and then you can go back to this one and do another duplicate and start all over again. So your first one is always like your master. Think of it as that, your master set. So let's just say you've designed it and you want to proof it out and you're ready to show your clients. So what you do is you go up to this section, this arrow up here in the corner, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in Proofer. So you can export for print, you can export for web, export splits, but there's this one here, export for Proofer. Now, when you press export for Proofer, what will happen is, I won't do it because it'll just take too long to export it out and then wait for everything to come up. So I'll explain and then we'll go over to Proofer. It will open up the box asking you where you want to put the images. So I will show you, let's go into this. I will go into this. In every job, so I'm giving you a sneak peek here at my workflow. We'll go to this. Neil Palmer, we'll go to his. So this is how I work. So this is 2019, then it goes to the month, and then in here it goes, this is my sort of way of filing things. So 18/08/2019, W is for wedding, and then it's their name. So processing, it goes, so a shot with an A9, and then there's the original RAWs and there's the JPEGs. But projects, I have these in every single one. So projects, you can see here, album. So you go to album, I have preset, proof. So proof 1, proof 2, proof 3, and then approved. So in proof 1, I would select that, press OK, and then it would export the proofs out to proof 1. It's a good way of doing it like this, because then obviously the next time I give a client 3 proofs. So if you forget how many proofs you've sent out, it's not a problem, because if you go here and if you press on proof 3, if that's got all the images in, then they've used all their proofs up. When it's approved, then it comes to here. But I'll talk about that in a minute. So you've exported it to proof, it's coming here, and then all the spreads will be in this section here, ready to upload to Proofer. Once that happens and it's finished its export, you'll get another box come up and it will tell you, well, it asks you, do you want to open Proofer? Say yes, you want to open Proofer, and it will take you to here. So these are some test albums that I keep in, that I like to work on as well, and this is a proofed one here. So if you create a new one, just go here and press create new proof. It's quite simple. Oh, ask me to sign in again. Yep, so you just go create new proof, And then you just go through the simple steps of creating it. It'll ask you to add a client, which is basically their name and email, and then you'll upload the revisions. So these are the files. So you would press select, and then you navigate to that folder where you've just put your proofs in, and then upload them, and then sort of go through this step. Right at the end, it's going to ask here for reminders. Because you put the client's email in, turn reminders on and say that you want to remind the client once a month to proof their album. Do make sure you do this. Your clients can be quite forgetful at times. Don't forget, they've been on a honeymoon, they've come back, loads is happening. So to turn that on, they're going to get reminders to proof their album. So once you've created it and you've uploaded the images, then this is where they'll be. So it's in progress. So they'll end up over here. It tells you the date it was created and last uploaded. So these are the last proof you uploaded. You've got an instant access to the comments and links. That's to just proof it off, and that's to bin it. So the links, oh, let me see. Okay, so the links here that you get, you don't need to send these to the client, because once you've gone through the proofing stage of filling out that form, when you press OK, then Fundy automatically sends an email to the client. So happy days. But if they didn't receive the link, and what I like to do, I like to copy this and then I paste this into their sort of file. I use Studio Ninja and I just paste it into there. That way, if I ever I'm on the road and they ask me for the link and I need fast access to it, then it's just on my client database and I can just quickly email that out. Okay, so this one is the one that you share with your client. This is just a direct access to the comments. So if you log into it, if you press this, you can go direct to the clients. And then this one is kind of the one that you can share with friends and family if you want them to look at the album, but they basically can't comment on it or anything. It's only this one with the bride and groom that they can comment on it. So this is what they would get. Once they press on the link, they'll come to their album like this. So this is one for Holly Williams. And if we press, they basically can interact with the album. So you can see there, it's open the first page. This is the first page of the album. I always like to put a nice shot of the couple, and then it will go on to the wedding day. So as I was saying before, think about the pages. Think about pairing things together to make the most amount of spreads for the money. So here, this is the bouquet, and it's used a full spread, but how I've done it is one picture is of the bouquet, sort of the head, the flower, and then we've got a zoomed in picture of the actual flower itself, and then we've got a picture of the stem with it wrapped around. So all three pictures tell a story of the bouquet. I see loads of times that people will just do a full spread and it has a bouquet, the dress, the perfume, everything in, and straight away I'm just thinking, well, you've lost an upsell there, because you quite easily could have upselled your album with some extra spreads. So again, coming through, this is the morning shot of everyone just finishing off getting ready. So I'll do a shot of them. Again, with the fastening the dress, the mum, so everything works together. The dress is fastened, she's looking in the mirror, and then I've walked around, so I've got a view of the mum, and then the perfume coming on. Holly looking amazing, mum's doing a sneak peek round, and then dad coming in. So again, just think of how best to tell the story. I always stick extra images in. So this is of obviously all the girls, but we can't see the church here. We could have done a really wide shot, but again, they go really tiny and small. So instead, I do a shot of the church on its own and then put that next to it. Nice spread here. We can see how it tells the story with the VW coming in, Holly's there, and then they're getting out, and then coming up the stairs to the church. And again, the ceremony itself, a really simple way of telling the story, but I know I keep saying it, the most important thing with a wedding album is to have consistency and to tell a story. So this is why you need to write down what you normally put on each spread, and you will end up with, say, an A4 bit of paper which has got 36 pages on it, and you will say page 1 is hero shot, bride and groom portrait, page 2 is flowers, page 3 is bride getting ready, and so on and so forth. So that way, when you come to design your albums, instead of every single one just being an absolute, thrown together mess, everyone has a consistency. So that will come into your favor when then you actually go to see other clients, because when you do see, in fact, you can tell here how consistent mine are, because if we go back, you can see that the group shots, so the big group shot, and then you turn the page and you see how I've got 2 shots of each side of the family having fun. And if you remember on the design that I showed you, it was very much laid out, even though this is a different wedding. So it's going to come in your favor to have this consistency, because when you go to other clients to show them wedding albums, when they're looking through, say, 3 different albums at 3 different weddings, there's going to be this lovely consistency that they've got going across the albums, which is going to tell the story so much better. And you will actually win more couples with being consistent like that, because if they go from one album, love it, and then they go to another album and it's like, wow, this is crazy different, they're going to get in their head then that your designs are kind of all over the place, nothing's consistent. And again, you can see here from the top, working around table decors, cake, layout, venue, and then coming through. So speeches, how it all happens, it's all going in a line of the story. It goes from left to right, left to right. So then it takes you to the next page, and then it tells the story again. So we can see here, they had their first dance. They actually cut their cake last. So they had a first dance, and then after the first dance, we did the cutting of the cake. And then that's it. So a nice album. Obviously, if they want to request changes, they would just go on to this here at the bottom. And then it comes up with my sort of agreement. This is your own agreement, so everyone puts theirs in. They have to accept it because it won't let them go any further. And then from here, you can see how all the albums sort of flat lay down. They can approve this, or then they can add a comment. When they add a comment, the box they can just put and drag around and then write over it. And all of those come back to you as well. Okay, so it's, again, very simple for them to do. Once they've done it, they can press finish at the top, and then you'll get notified. One thing I really like about Fundy is how easy and simple it is for the clients. So there's nothing worse than having to do a video to explain to your clients how to use the proofer, how to do the comments. This is all very self-explanatory, so that's one reason I really do love the proofer. So again, the proofer is all part of Fundy as well. So you can also get this side of it. I would definitely say use the proofer along with the album design, because it will help you out immensely. And one of the last things I want to touch on before I take some questions, I can talk for England, and I see I've gone over already. So once the album's been approved, one thing I do like to do, and you'll see this, is, so it's been approved, I always export it as splits, and then I will also export it as spreads as well. So export for print and export for splits. Why do I do that? Well, let's just go back to this. So once it's approved, and you don't need to do this, I just prefer to do it this way. So the splits will go in here, and they'll be, every page is individual. So page 1, 2, 3. It's all split. Spreads is, as it said, it's exported in spreads, so it'll be page 1, 2, page 3, 4. Some album companies, when you go to upload your images, your spreads, some prefer it in splits and some prefer it in spreads. So for that reason only, I export it in both. So if for any reason, say they've bought an album from me after their wedding, and it's been from, say, Loxley, and then maybe a couple of weeks later, the mum contacts me and she wants an album, but it's from say Fineo, and with Fineo I can do splits as well. So it's only for that reason. If you promote yourself right, you will make a lot of sales. I mean, for myself, I do a lot of album sales after the wedding. So the one that I just showed you, Holly's, so I did her wedding, it was all done and dusted, and then I sent an email out, I think it was about 10 weeks after the her wedding, just saying, hey, I'm running a special offer on wedding albums. It's a free design, and I think I was doing something like 10% off wedding albums at the time. And she was like, hey, brilliant, Rob, can you design me one up so I can see what it's like? Designed it up, done and dusted, and she ended up buying it. She got her album delivered to her last week, and she was posting it all over Instagram today, which is brilliant for me because she tags me in. It's free advertisement for me as well, and then people start contacting me again about her wedding and images and where they can see the images. So it's all good PR, as it's called. So there you go. That is kind of the introductory to how to set up for auto design and how to export it out and use Proofer, and a bit on my workflow. So I'm going to ask Jay, have we got any questions, Jay?
Yes, we do, mate. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Rob, you hearing me okay?
Yes, you're coming now. Yeah, I've got you.
Rob, just before we get going, because I wasn't expecting Kirsten to be with us from Fundy. Kirsten, I've unmiked you. Have you got a microphone? Can you hear me, love?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, Kirsten. How you doing? Nice. I could see you were there, and I could see you were busy answering questions, but I think you missed my private chat with you, so I just wanted to.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I must have.
Brilliant. So great to have you with us. So thank you for joining us tonight. And my bad, I should have checked if one of you was going to be with us. I'm pretty good with Fundy, and so is Rob. But you know what? There's some questions here that they've asked that I think it's perfect that you're with us. So
okay.
So I'm going to do them to the both of you, and I'll tell you who's for who as we go there. Kirsten, you okay for time? We've only got a few to go through. You okay, love? Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yep.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
So Rob, we're going to start with you though, mate. So right back at the beginning, we said that we preview, or you aim for 60 images, in the album. Are you choosing those 60, or are they having like a pre-choice?
No. So I choose them. I mean, what I found in the past, and again, other photographers work different. This is just what works best for me. If I've, say, uploaded to a proofing gallery all their images and said to them, can you pick, say 60 images for me to use in your album? It prolongs that time for me to actually design it. So my turnaround time for a wedding is 2 weeks. And I kind of want to be 3 weeks later, I've designed the album, proofed it out to them, and done dusted. Because I go through so many weddings, I really want to sort of go through them fast. So if you give them that extra choice, it's going to take you longer to get that proof back. So I would personally say get in the habit of you picking the 60 images, doing the initial design, and then sending them the proof and work from there. I mean, again, when I've asked the couples in the past, when I was trying to figure out which was the best way, I would say 80% of couples, when you ask them, would you like me to pick the images or would you want to pick them? The majority of them turn around and say, well, you know what works better than us, so can you pick them? So yeah, I would definitely say you do the initial first pick, and it will probably just speed the process up of you getting that first proof back and getting the album finished.
I don't know what you think about this, but I'll throw it into the mix back because I think it's a good point. We've got Kenny Martin, who teaches for the Photographer Academy. He doesn't do a whole lot of weddings anymore, but he used to be doing loads. But I think his daughter Natalie now does a lot of weddings, does the same process, especially with auto design and the design features like this. Is that actually when they book, when the couple book you, and they actually include the wedding albums in their packages. When it comes to design, Kenny says, look, if you leave and you trust me, and his daughter Natalie says this as well, if you accept my first design, I'll take 10% off the album. Then any changes, like in your terms and conditions that we saw with you, is £5 a change, £2 a change, whatever it is. And he was saying to me, and I thought it was genius really, that probably now 99% of all of his clients just go with his design and accept it. And as you said, the time saved is exceptional, isn't it? Really.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you the more choice you give to your clients, the longer it's going to take. And I mean, some will just keep going through the images, and every time you email, and it's like, I can't make my mind up. I'm still picking them.
And that's why he did it. And I think it's just worked so well for him. And then obviously Natalie, his daughter, who's coming up through the ranks now and a great wedding photographer in her own right, she's just employed that technique. And 99% of the time, obviously there's still changes, but they charge, so it works okay. So Kirsten, I think I'm going to aim this one at you because you did mention it in the chat panel, but they don't get to see all the questions unless I bring them up. So the question was, when dragging the images in from Lightroom or whatever, whether it's Bridge or whatever it is, they need to be converted to JPEG already, right?
Yes, they do.
So we did touch on that with Andy Funderburg, so the funder, the person who created Fundy. We did that in his tutorial a few months ago. So if you haven't seen that, Andrew goes through things in detail, and people can see that on the Academy. But Fundy's working with a JPEG. That's the clear thing to get across, isn't it?
Right.
Perfect, brilliant. Okay, so I think this one's back to you, Rob. Oh, I think you've kind of you've answered this actually. I knew you were going to preview the proofer. But the question was the customer seeing the film strip? Obviously, we've shown now that how beautiful the proofer is and what they see. And it was great that you went into the change bit. I was going to ask you to do that anyway, when they request a change so they can see. And I'm in total agreement with you that proofing, when we saw that from Fundy, when we first saw it here at, Mark Cleggon and the Xperience, we just thought, brilliant, that's just going to change the way, you get your proofing back. So brilliant. Back in the old days, and you'll remember this, Rob, we used to print proofing books, remember? Do you know what I mean? It was just, so yeah, it's just revolutionary.
I mean, it's, do you know what? I think Loxley actually still do proofing books where all the images are all in there.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and then you can give them to the clients, and they can sort of like, circle the ones they want. And I remember that day, and it was a very long-winded way of doing it. And now with the proofer,
gone are those days, without a doubt.
But one of the things I didn't mention with the proofer is on there, as long as you've got it active in your proofing site, they can actually save it onto their iPad or iPhone as a little app. So they can actually open it up from their iPad or iPhone on the go as well. Obviously, when you archive it in your proofer, then it disables the app function, so they can't, just put it on their iPad and think, yeah, we've got a free album. But it's a really nice way where they can go around and sit with mum and dad and look at the album and sort of help make the changes as well. Brilliant.
Going back to the section where you were showing us, the tagging and the sections of the day.
Yes.
I think this is fair. I'm going to answer it, but you can tell me if I'm completely wrong. Is there an easy way to check that you've tagged all the images, or is it quickly just clicking into them individually and making sure that they show in a highlighted section in the bottom corner?
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to this anytime you like. So anytime you like, just press on that, and even if you tap on an image, you'll see there that it. Sorry, does everyone still see my screen?
Yeah, we're seeing your screen, mate.
Yeah. So any image you tap on, if it's been tagged, it will just come straight back up. So we can go on this one, or we can come further down on that. You see, it goes to the formals. So yeah, so it doesn't lose it. Once you've finished the tagging, it stays there all the time, no matter if you keep coming in or out.
If you've gone through a ton of them and you might have missed one, it just wouldn't highlight in the box in the bottom corner, right?
That's right. Yeah, the box would just stay blank.
Perfect, brilliant. Kirsten, I think you're going to help with this one because I think you've answered it. The question was, what's the difference between hearting them and star rating them with regards going through to auto design? Does that make sense? Kirsten, are you with us?
Yeah, there's really no difference between the heart and the star rating.
So it makes it a featured image then, basically.
Right.
Perfect. That makes well. I think that's how I perceived it, but I wasn't sure that if you hearted and starred,
so
does it make any major differences to the auto design?
No, it doesn't affect the auto design at all.
Go on, Rob. Sorry, mate. I can see you there. Yeah.
So I was going to say it's more for your own preference, really, because when you heart things, they tend to stand out more. So before I do my star rating, if I'm just quickly flicking through and I love an image, then I heart it.
Right.
Because when I'm looking there, it just really stands out. You can see it straight away. So if I want to come back to it, I can come back to it. Same with there. Maybe there's the two that I couldn't decide, so I love both of them. And then maybe I go, well, do you know what? This is more, so that's why here I've given it a 3-star, and then here I've not. So that's how I tend to use it.
Brilliant. Again, this might be for the two of you, but Kirsten, you might be better amped to answer this. When an image, so we've chosen the image and we've hit auto design, and it brings the image from your film strip, if you like, into the design. Is it doing any auto cropping, or is it keeping the original crop from the image that you've imported? I'm not sure if I've lost her. Are you there, Liv?
Hey, I'm helping her out behind the scenes, so we're just muting our microphone a little bit.
Okay, cool. So did you want me to repeat that, or did you get it?
So as far as cropping the images?
Yeah, really, so you know when we've chosen, Rob's chosen his selection, we've hit the auto design button, it's bringing it into the, the ideas. Is it keeping the original crop? So if we've imported a square or a rectangle or a portrait?
It really depends. So if you, Rob, can you hit the auto design button just so you can pull up the dialogue so we can show a couple? So
it's this here.
Yeah, so you have the choice to do 3:2 accent images or original accent images. So the original will retain the crop. 3:2 will force a 3:2 image ratio, which should match your crop. But if you've pre-cropped in Lightroom, say as a square, you can say original accent images and it will keep that. The only caveat is that you can do 3:2 all images, and the main image in a design will sometimes be cropped, or a panorama will be cropped so it looks nice on the page. So you have your choice whether you want to override that or not. So for example, like we auto design pages 13 and 14, you want that to crop so it actually fills the entire spread.
Brilliant. And just so we can tell everybody, obviously we have Andrew Vandenberg with us then. Hi Andy, how are you, mate?
Hey, how you doing? That was a little complex, so I jumped in.
That's okay. So, no, great to have you there. Didn't know you were there.
Scroll down a little bit.
So we have the main man with us, which is brilliant. Thank you. Right, I think the rest are for Rob. Oh, actually, while I've got the two of you there, let's make sure we touch on it. So we have been asked about the costings of it, guys. So I don't know who wants to take that, Andy or Kirsten, but just run through how the costings of Fundy software works.
Oh, the pricing?
Yes,
yeah.
Please. Yeah.
I sent the link to the store. I'm not sure if it showed up, but if you go to fundy.com/store, that's where you'll see all the different pricing on the suite options there.
And the main things, Andy, we've discussed this in the past, but the main things that we're paying additions for, we can just touch on that.
Yeah, so most of our customers will choose either the album suite or the pro suite. The pro suite has the wall art design, so if you sell wall art, you want that. When you purchase, you get 3 free months of what we call our pro enhancements, and that includes the proofer. It includes access to the design library, which has your templates for your magazine designs, card designs, songs for slideshows, etc., and the one-click skin retouching. So you get 3 months free for that, and if you decide you want to keep it because you're using all of those features, it's $179 a year, or you can choose to cancel it.
Of course, we have the exclusive discount for you guys as well, and we shouldn't forget. I did touch on it at the beginning, guys. Is that if nothing else, you can try Fundy for free, and you should be doing that. If you haven't used it before, download the free trial, and get to grips with that, because it will change. Not just, we're talking about weddings tonight, and we've talked about this before with Andrew and ourselves here. It works in all formats. We use it full on in our portraiture business, not just weddings, albums and proofers. And we haven't touched on the magazine. I know Scott covered it last month for us, but the tools that are in Fundy are incredible. So that's as much as, it's easy. It sounds like a sales pitch, but it changed our business. And that's why we have Fundy online with us today. And I know Rob would be an advocate of that as well. I think the rest of the questions, guys, but please stay with us, are for Rob. But if I've missed anything, then I'll jump back in with you guys. We've done the crop one. Let me get rid of that. Rob, this is more about shooting on a wedding than anything else, but a good question. With action and movement, are you shooting auto or are you still shooting manual? And what's the best way to capture action or movement on a wedding day?
Okay, so my camera is always in manual. I actually do manual white balance, manual exposure all the way through. If I'm outside, I normally just set it to 5600K. If I'm inside, then I'm sort of round about the 3000 Kelvin, depending what the lighting is. I like a consistency across the board, and I like to have a really nice flow to editing. So I just found, being in manual, if I'm in one room, then there's no up and down on the exposures. It's all even. When it comes to the actual sort of focusing settings as well, so I don't use a single shot. It's always set to continuous. So that way, because you're capturing a moment, your camera's more down, or for me anyway, it's more down at the side the majority of the time. And I'm looking around, I'm looking at people's expressions, and then as soon as I see the expression, the camera comes up, and because I'm in continuous, it basically locks on straight away, and I'm getting the shot. If you're on single focus, then obviously you've got to wait for it to lock on and get that beep, but maybe that person's walking towards you. So to have your camera set on continuous autofocus, you don't need to worry about missing that shot, because if they're like the bride's walking towards you and the confetti's going, then you as soon as you lift your camera up, it's already tracking her as she's walking towards you, and you can get that shot.
Great tip, mate. Brilliant. I'm not sure who's going to answer this, whether it's you, Rob, or the guys from Fundy. I think I'm reading this right. I think it's going back to the tagging area. Those titles that so beginning of the day, end, are they fixed or can they be adjusted? So that the details, bride. Can you make your own titles?
Yeah. So if you've just seen my screen there, there's a little see the little sort of pen at the side. If you press the pen, then it opens them up, and you can then change these to what you want. But this is kind of the preset that comes with the Fundy Designer. This is what it'll be laid out. I haven't changed it. I use it like this. But if you did want to change it and rearrange it, then you can. And also, I mean, maybe you shoot portraits. Then if you change it to portraits, then it's laid out. You can see there, location 1, location 2, so you can change it to there. Senior events, maybe event photography. So you've got there speech 1, speech 2. But again, you can sort of change this to your own style, what works best for you.
Brilliant, thanks. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, that's a good question. Can you explain again, Rob? You referred to selling extra spreads. Did you mean extra pages? And what's the best ways for simple advice on how to sell an extra page, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I don't talk them as pages, so I talk them as spreads. So if I open up, this is a spread, but it's 2 pages. So obviously you can see it's there, pages 15 and 16. But when an album's when you send it to be printed, they always talk of spreads. So this is a spread, but it's actually 2 pages. So I sell per spread. So I sell for 2 pages. And the best way to do it, so if I was to go to, let me just quickly go here so people can see wedding pricing. So if we go down to albums, so you can see here, this is how I sell them. It says here that a wedding album is £350. And it comes with 30 pages. So that's how much they would buy it for. So that's at the beginning of the wedding when they book me. But when I design the album, so this is after the wedding, because obviously you want to do upsells. So when I design it, I will design 36 pages. Okay, so think of when it's 36 pages, to get the number of spreads, just half it, and that tells you how many spreads that you've got. Okay, so you can see that from where am I? View, auto design. So you can see there my original album that I did was 36 pages, and half that, and that'll tell you how many spreads is in the album. So originally they get 30 pages, which is 15 spreads, but I've actually designed 36. So those 6 other spreads, they're not included in their album. So what a customer will do, if I've got Proofer open, and we'll just look at Amy's. I'm going to go to here. Oh, this one's so here they can turn all the pages to their album. This is probably let me go to this one actually. I'm going to close it while someone's on Holly. So this one, I can show you this one. Request changes. Right, so in this, it tells them that I've created extra spreads as well. So when they accept, if they don't want them, see, they can do approve page, or they can do remove. So if they didn't want it, they would just press remove and it takes it off. But if they want all the pages, they just approve it. Again, if they go through this whole album and they approve every page, well, then they've just bought the 6 extra pages. So then I invoice them for the extra additional pages before I even make the album, before I send it off. Then I invoice them for the extra pages. As soon as they're paid for them, then I will send the album off to print. And by doing that, by doing the upsell of those extra additional pages, you can actually make it so those additional pages actually covers the cost of the album being made.
I'm with you. Brilliant. Andrew, do I still have you with you? Because I've got a question that's directed directly to you.
Oh, you know what? He ran out, but he's right there. So let me
No, well, it's not a question. So you could just feed it back to him, actually, Kirsten.
Oh, okay.
So please tell Andrew that we loved the party bus at the Society's convention in January, and that is from Ian, Anthony, Jez, and Deeks. They imply that he'll know who he's on about. I'm sure there was lots of you on the party bus, but I've heard lots of stories about the Fundy party bus. So if you can pass that on to him, that'd be amazing. Kirsten, I will keep you just for 1 second, but we're pretty much there. Really great question that's just come through, and because we mentioned earlier that it isn't just about weddings, and Rob's just shown, portraits, landscape, portraits, events, boudoir. But the question came is, well, does it suit landscape photography? It suits anything that we're making a photo book or an album of, doesn't it? That's the beauty of Fundy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so the question was, do you think Fundy is suited towards landscape photography? And my answer is, well, it suits anything that we're making an album or a book of, really, isn't it? It's perfect for anything.
Yeah, I mean, I do my family albums every year with Fundy Designer. I designed my street photography book with it. So, I mean, it's basically created for photo,
It's for
professional
photographers, full
photo
stop.
book design. So whatever kinds of you want to put in there doesn't matter.
There was a good part of the question, Andy, Andy, that was, when with the landscape photography, that a lot often we might be doing, photo stitches, and obviously the file sizes are getting bigger and that. The Fundy can cope with that completely, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean it's like basically custom ratios?
Well, yeah, custom ratios, but also, when you're doing a photo stitch, even a large JPEG can be, a large file size, but that's no issue for Fundy at all, is it?
Yeah, that's no real issue because we just create proxy images when we bring them in, and then we read that original file when we make the print export, and it reads right off of that.
Brilliant, brilliant. Andy, I'll repeat it in case you missed it, but you were thanked for the party bus in January at the convention.
Oh, thank you.
So Ian, Anthony, Jez, and Deep, they've combined their big thanks and love for the party bus. So there we go. So I thought I'd share it with you. Guys, we're there. So Andy, great to have you with us. Kirsten, great to have you with us for the first time. I'm sure it'll be the first of many. Rob, thank you.
Just one last thing from me, Jay. So I did say to everyone I would load up my my rating, what I use in Lightroom. So I don't use the stars very much in Fundy. That's why I use the love hearts, because my rating system in Lightroom would conflict against it because of how it is. But I put it up there so you can see. And I just highlight everything in green. I use the green flag in Lightroom to allocate what images that I'm going to use for the wedding album.
Brilliant.